Thank you for having me. I'm based in Toronto, so it's a kind of a joy not to have to get on an airplane to do a talk for people, so that's kind of fun for me. I'm going to talk about skills, which I think is a pretty hot topic in HR today, and hopefully leave you with some thoughts to think about. For those of you who don't know who Visier is, we are a people analytics platform which help take data from across the HR spectrum and cohese it into a common whole so you can make better decisions about your people. Our tagline is we like to see how the business impacts the people and how the people impact the business. And I think a lot of organizations are struggling to do that. As Michael mentioned, the pandemic has changed the contract between employee and employer, and we believe that having insight into your people makes a really big difference to how you manage your people and your business. So I'm going to stop talking about Visier and talk a little bit about skills. So this slide, which if you're at the back you can't see it, so I apologize, but the average company lifespan of organizations on the S&P 500 has gone from 32 in 1965, so 32 years, to 21 in 2015. That means that organizations are existing less in our world than we thought they did. And I think we've seen that, right? I know you used to work for Nortel. That's a great example of a company that was really large and now doesn't exist. And I like to give this example. Think about Ford, GM, and Toyota. You mentioned both of those in your talk. It's like we were simpatico or something. Think of how they built their business model. Think of the type of people they're hiring. Think of the skills you need to work in those organizations, and then compare to Tesla. What is their business model? What are the types of people that they're hiring? What are the skills that they need? If you were an auto worker at Ford, do you think you could get hired at Tesla? Maybe, but you're more likely to get hired at Tesla if you're an AI developer, a self-driving car specialist, an algorithm, a data scientist, a battery maker, a chemical engineer. These are very different skill sets. And so I share this because this isn't just an HR problem. This is a business problem. And I think one of the things that we've seen, I did a talk yesterday in New York City, and we talked a lot about how HR now has a seat at the boardroom table or in the executive suite or whatever terminology you want to use. We're no longer sitting there, dealing with performance appraisals or, performance issues. We're actually helping to influence business strategy as HR leaders. So this chart, which again, I apologize for the size, the number 2 thing on people's minds is labor shortages. Now this probably is a little better now than it was a few months ago. Everybody remember the Great Resignation wave? I was having candidates who would first interview, hey listen, I got 3 offers on the table, are you in or you out? I'm like, no, I'm out then. Like, have a nice life. Good luck with your career. But the dynamics are changing, and people are constantly dealing with labor shortages. And it's not just you need a body, you need the right body for your corporate culture, for the job that you've got to do, and there's a lot more nuances now than in the past. And I'll share with you why I think that is. The other comment here is that talent is the most pressing internal issues facing companies, and this is from another study that's just independent research. So there's a lot going on in HR. There's a lot of things that the talent marketplace is kicking in. So talent, you mentioned the dictionary, we pulled that up, but these are some stats. 33% of 2019 job requirements will be outdated next year. 46% of employees fear their skills will be irrelevant by next year. That's terrifying, kinda, right? And what this means is we have to, this one I like too, internally promoted employees are 3.5 times more engaged, which means we often look outside the organization to fill a requisition versus looking internally because we don't put in programs to help employees build up their skills and build internal mobility. And I don't say we don't, but I think that's a trend in the industry, in the world, not even the industry. So what does this mean? How do we change the narrative on this stuff? We've got to move from a job-based organization to a skills-based organization. This is what a lot of people are struggling with. When finance does, anybody here in strategic workforce planning or has to deal with headcount planning? No? Okay. So like when finance comes to you, they say you have so many headcount. They don't care about what the headcount costs or whether it's diverse. They just want to fill the requisition. And that's a job-based taxonomy. We're thinking about the job. We're posting a job. Moving to a skills-based taxonomy is saying, what are the skills you need to deliver on that job? What skills do we have internally? We may have someone working in marketing who has amazing data science skills because they took an undergrad in data science, they just happened to land in marketing. Maybe we should move them into our data science team. And some of these decisions about how you manage people and manage internal careers has to get to the skills-based level. So why don't we do it? Like, does everybody here hire based on skill? No? There was a post one of my colleagues put on LinkedIn this week that said, how many people hire for education or experience? I have an undergrad from McMaster University in psychology, and I have never once been asked, and now I work for a tech company where I do technical implementations, I do machine learning, I do all these goofy things that have absolutely nothing to do with my degree. So I think we need to start to change that paradigm and not look so much at the paper and start to look at the skills that make the paper happen. So, what is the challenge of implementing a skills-based taxonomy? This is some research that we do. So Visier has the benefit of housing about 18 million employee records across a variety of organizations. And as part of that, we're able to, we get agreement from our customers to do anonymized research on that data. The chart on the left says that organizations around 500 employees, they have about 100 occupations. That means of 500 people, 1 in 5 people have a different job title. Think about that. That's a big deal. That's not good. There's no way that 1 in 5 people in a company that big is doing something distinct. And as you get bigger, it doesn't get much better. We had one customer who had, I think they had like 5,000 employees, and they had 3,500 job titles, which means everybody had a distinct title. And that's not just what they say they are on the street, that's what's in their HR system. That's what they're hired as. And then if you marry that up, when you look at those individual titles, each title has a series of skills that are associated with it. I'm a solution consultant, whatever my title is, it's a made-up title. No one knows what I do. My neighbors think I'm a drug dealer, but that's a different issue. I have a bunch of skills that are associated with my name and my job function. So you do the permutation of that, and all of a sudden those 235 titles turn into 4,000 skills. It becomes very hard to manage. Many years ago, we talked about the concepts of big data, right? And we have someone here from an AI company. I've done AI in my career, and AI is not going to help you get out of that. There's no way. I can tell you how I can help you in a second here. So there are an average of 23 essential skills per person. And we have to start looking at not only the person skills, the soft skills, the hard skills, the tangible skills for the job. And it starts to become a really complicated problem of navigating the combinations and permutations of the person, the job, and the skill. Not to mention, how do you hire for it and recruit for it and all those lovely things. And when we talk to our customers about what's hindering their adoption, they have no unified source of data. 67% of people have no unified source for people data. Now, I'm a technologist by training. I am not an HR professional. I play one on TV. But the challenge that we face is, does anybody deal with people data in their work? Anybody work with their IT colleagues and they say, we're going to build a data warehouse and give you some dashboards? Woohoo, dashboards. I have a hypothesis for every, I'm going to call it the Steve Holder metric, but there is a metric that says for every dashboard you create, there is X more dashboards you need to have to answer a question. I think it's around 25, but I'm going to do some research and publish a report. You can all buy it. I'll have a book. It'll be awesome. But point is it's really hard to get all the data organized. And that when you don't have your data organized and don't have the conversation about skills becomes really like we're drowning. There's no chance we can get this done. The other challenge is overcoming legacy mindsets. I think Michael did a nice job of talking about legacy versus current and how we've got to start to change the paradigm and the conversation about not only the people in the jobs, but the culture of the company and a whole bunch of other factors, which I know some of the other speakers are going to talk about today. So it's a challenging problem. It sounds really easy. Go from jobs to skills. And vendors, and I'm a software vendor, so we sell technology, full disclosure, they're going to say, oh, we got this AI algorithm that's going to take care of it all for you and blah, blah. And it's so hard because you're literally starting from nothing and you've got to get to this really complex problem. So where do you start? How do you get started? How do you go back to your office and say, we got to start to move the needle on this job to skill transformation? And as I said, don't let the hype fool you. Again, I'm a vendor. And I always believe that I have to say what I believe and make sure my software does it. But like AI and talent marketplaces and upskilling workforces, all these terms are going to be thrown around when we talk about the skills conversation. And that's okay. But it's about how do you start small and grow. You mentioned this as well. So This is our framework, if you will, for how to become a skills-driven organization. I think there's some really interesting aspects here. Start small, skills insights. What are the skills your current employees have? We have knowledge. There are systems and technologies in place to get a skills taxonomy in place. There are consulting organizations that help you with this. Start small. Figure out what skills you have for the jobs you have. Standardize your job titles. Oddly enough, we have a solution that helps with that, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Try to move towards skills planning. I think as HR, we have a lot more power to influence the work plan than we assert. Finance often drives the workforce plan. Oddly enough, in my organization, finance drives my workforce plan. And I have to correct them and say, actually, I'll tell you what I want, and I'll tell you how many headcount I need to do it. So moving to a place where we go to skills planning, imagine if you could do strategic workforce planning that was based on skills, based on the planned attrition. Some business leaders may come to you and say, we're going to hire 15 people. Why? You have natural attrition that's going to take care of that. You have natural attrition that's going to make it so you don't have to RIF people. Sorry, wrong story there. We had one customer who was going to RIF a bunch of people. They built a plan that took into account natural attrition. They were able to accomplish their reduction goals without having to let a single person go and take that brand hit. So it's pretty powerful stuff when you start to bring skills to the table and understanding maybe you can redeploy resources and fix problems. Skills matching is another big topic, which is saying, how do I start to use the skills taxonomy? So when you standardize on jobs and you start understanding what skills jobs need or what roles need, then you can start to look at resumes and understand what skills candidates have that they can bring to the table, both on their resume and others. And this is a fantastic opportunity for AI. Because what AI is really good at is taking a rule set and applying it at scale and starting to reconcile complex problems into a set of rules that we could all do as humans, but it just takes us a long time. They do it really fast. So that ability to match skills to resumes is fantastic. We have a crazy idea that's saying instead of once a year going into my skills library and having to update what my skills are, actually have my peers verify skills and using the community to figure out what your skills are. Maybe you have hidden skills you don't even know exist. And last but not least, moving to this concept of skills marketplace, which is really the aggregate of all of it, putting together to say, how do I create internal mobility? How do I get the right candidates on the floor? And how do I keep the people I have and grow them internally? So most people start here, which is kind of challenging because you don't have the foundation in place to make that a relevant conversation. Last thing I'll talk about is, there's some animation there I didn't know about. See that, everybody? Fun on a Tuesday night. Standardizing jobs and skills is a challenging thing. And the ability to use AI to map and merge map and reconcile that is where AI is really powerful. Basically what you're able to do, and this is a little tech 101, is take internal job titles. There are lots of standardized job title taxonomies in the world. Whether you call yourself a data scientist, a data engineer, there's normal ways you can reconcile this. Feeding that in, we can match it up and deliver it out to give you those benefits you want on the outside. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can standardize that information. I know I only have 15 minutes, so I'll pause there and say that Visier is, we've been around for about 10 years. We're a Canadian company based in Vancouver. We have some of the largest brands in the world who use our people analytics platform. And if you want to chat about it, Craig, my colleague, and I will be here all night. Try the veal.